What's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing well, guys and gals, all truck drivers, technicians, service riders. Today's live, we're going to be talking about belts, what to look for on your belt tensioners, how to inspect your belts, why it's important. In this live, my goal is to at least, hopefully, we can take away something from this live. Guys, if we're missing anything, if I don't mention something, be sure to hit us up on the comments. I will be getting onto the chat later on. I'm going to be talking about belts today. So let's get on with this show. I appreciate everybody that's going to be joining us this evening. I was going to go live earlier today. We had some issues trying to get online, so we're going to try out this evening and see how everything's working. I appreciate everybody that's coming in and joining us and joining the show. Let me know where you guys are watching from and how's everything been out there. We're going to go over belt. If you're having belt noises, if you're having squealing noises when you start up or when you're idling, you're the squealing one in the yard. That's definitely going to be something we're going to be covering and what to look for, because especially on these newer model engines, you got these tensioners with struts on them, and you got to keep an eye on all this hardware and components to make sure that everything's lined up right. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I appreciate everybody that's joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. If you do have questions, I'm going to be getting to your questions later on in the show. So let's talk about these belts here. So the first thing I'm going to want to cover about belts is, okay, so the reason why it's so important to check these belts and to make sure everything's working correctly and not frayed or shredding or rubbing against anything is because these belts are not really that accessible. So they're really tight areas to get to. Is very tough to replace these. Sometimes you're going to have special tools, extensions and whatnot to be able to get these tensioners loose. Sometimes and not only that, if you bust a belt on the side of the road, it can definitely cause some damage to your fan or your shroud. It could take out the other belt, and you're going to be dead in the water, because most of all engines that are newer model engines are being ran, their water pump is being ran by belt. It's belt driven. So if you lose the belt, you lose your alternator, you lose your air conditioning. So in any environment, whether it's extremely hot or extremely cold, definitely don't not want to lose a belt. And being safer, if you're really far out, getting a belt is not going to be, sometimes it's not really that quick to get a belt out to you. And the same part getting you down. I want to share some images here on how these belts are ran. So let me do a share screen here. So this is a reason why it's really important to get these belts replaced. This is a model of a DD platform, but this is pretty much how every engine is ran. So you can see it's the compressors, the air compressor for the AC is going to be ran on it. Your alternator is something that I really want to discuss, because these alternators, whenever you get them replaced, if you have somebody replace a pulley or whatnot, you got to make sure that these everything is aligned, because any of these pulleys that are grooved can actually have the belt running off the pattern, and I'm going to discuss that. But as you can see, this fan is actually sticking out further, so this is not really a solid, a real figure. I mean, in the truck, you're going to have the shroud in the way, so the access to these belts is really tight. So this is a Detroit, of course. Let's look at it. This is a Cummins here. Let me turn it around. Okay, so you can see it's the same kind of setup. It's got all the belts are going to run off the main crankshaft pulley or balancer. This is also a balancer as well. So this has liquid in it, and it balances the engine to make sure you have smooth operation. This needs to be replaced as well, which is part of your it's part of your maintenance. But we're going to discuss this later. Right now we're just discussing the belts. So this is what drives your belts. Of course, this is connected to the whole crankshaft. So this is basically turning and burning. This is what turns all your accessories. Right now on this particular figure, there's only going to be a water pump on. You can just see the water pump being driven, but you can see that this water pump here has 2 pulleys on it. So it's going to be pulley lined up with the fan or an inside belt as well. Let me move over to a different engine here. This is a Volvo. And you can see as well, this is tight area. This doesn't even have the fan. You're not even where the shroud is. So definitely a tight area. This is why I want to discuss these belts, because it's really, really important. So when I talk about misalignments, when I talk about if you replace an alternator is really where you see it most. Is if you replace an alternator, and you can, one thing to see, if your alternator, let me find an image of an alternator here. This image here is kind of a good example. This bolt here, you can see that this is just an image, but the end of this bolt needs to be sticking out of this nut. Okay, so if it's not sticking out and the threads are over, or the nut is over the bolt, that's definitely going to be an indicator you might have the wrong pulley. It might not be setting in right. So once, as you can see, these pulleys have grooves on them. You see the grooves on them, and everything's lined up. So if a pulley, like for example, this pulley here on this alternator is installed incorrectly, it's going to throw the whole alignment of the system off. So the way that you can tell is if you're looking at pulleys like this one, you can see, you want to see other pulleys. Let me give you an example of a worn pulley here. Let me see if I can give you an example. But what you're going to be noticing is on those pulleys, they're going to be wore on the side. So example for this pulley here on this clutch here on this compressor, it can be worn on the side. Also, you're going to you can notice where the belt kind of rides on the edge of these pulleys here. These also can make some noises here. These are going to squeal. These are just idlers. Definitely can cause some problems. So where you're going to see the wear is on other pulleys. So for example, if this one's riding here and you see it's riding between the grooves or between the pulley, and it looks good, but if you look at another pulley, it's kind of riding on the edge of that pulley or on the water pump, that's an indicator of a misalignment. Now you definitely want to get that corrected, because just replacing a belt and not realigning that, if you see a worn belt and you just replace it but not actually fix the problem, it's definitely going to give you some issues down the road. And one thing I want to mention with these tensioners, these are massive tensioners. Big tensioners that are putting a lot of pressure on these engines. They got struts on them, so you can see they'll have some springs that you want to inspect to make sure they're not leaking. If you do see some sort of leaking, then that's an indication that you have something going on there. Basically, when you look at owner's manuals or most of the literature for maintenance on these belts, they're recommending once a year. Now, I know it can get a little pricey to replace the tensioners as well, but if you have worn tensioners, you're inspecting these tensioners and they're losing their tension. You can notice if you have like noisy belts, if they're squealing, those are indication of worn tensioners. I have some more images of some more tensioners. This is a tensioner that's failed. You can see the whole pulley came off of it. So they're basically gonna lose the whole belt. Here's an indication of a belt. You can see this is an indication of a belt on a Volvo. You see how brittle it is and dry. That's what you want to look for. These are signs of bad worn belts. This definitely needs to get replaced. You don't want to have this go out on you on the side of the road. It can cause a lot of damage. So this is if we see damage on these belts like this, definitely get them replaced. And you want to inspect the pulley as well. So if you look at this this crankshaft pulley here, which is basically the balancer here, you can look in these grooves. What you want to look for is any grime that's rocks or anything that's in there, because even when you put a new belt on there, I can definitely start damaging and eating that belt up. I mean, you can imagine some rocks. You can see some debris in this belt here. There's already some rocks. So if you get these rocks and this dirt in between the grooves of these pulleys, is definitely going to wear those belts out faster. It's kind of like sandpaper that's on there. And as I mentioned, the maintenance on there, the maintenance manuals are usually going to say, hey, you know what, replace it once a year. But if you're in real dusty areas, you might have to change these sooner than later. The dust, as I mentioned, is going to get into your pulleys like this and cause some wear quicker. So you want to definitely inspect these. I would suggest inspecting your belts at least once a week. If you've had them already replaced, then you're in good condition. Make sure your tensioners are replaced as well. Tensioners play a vital role as well. They keep everything tight. So if you have issues, say for example for a squeal in a startup, that could be an indication of issues going on with your belt. So if you can remove the debris, try to remove the debris. If you can inspect all the pulleys, as I mentioned, inspect them for misalignment. If you find dirt, I had an image of a pulley that you can see that's worn. Here's another image of some dirt clogged into some belts here. You can see this one. This might be the same engine. This might be the same engine, but definitely you can see this belt is ready to bust. And Volvos sometimes they're not that easy to replace. Any of these engines are not that easy to replace. So got some more stuff to share with you guys. So check out for the tensioners. You want to check out to see the tensioners that have the struts on them, like the DD15 or the DD platforms. They have the spring strut. You want to look for oil at the bottom. Of course, oil is going to drip down, so you want to look at the bottom of the assembly to see if that's where you're having if it's leaking, then it definitely needs to be replaced. So when we're inspecting belts, I have some more images of belts here. We looked at the crack belts. Let me show you a belt that's give you another example. If you have any leaks, make sure you don't have any leaks. Look at this truck here. It's leaking coolant right on its belt. And since I have this image up and it's summertime, this is a good time to cover. This is what I'm talking about when a coolant hose is. Okay, so you see how this coolant hose is pretty kind of bloated. It's already showing signs, and of course it's leaking. This is what you don't want to. You don't want to wait till it's already leaking, especially now during the summertime, because you can risk overheating a truck. And overheating any engine is not ideal. There are already a lot of safety precautions that keep these engines from overheating, but once they overheat, there's not 100% guarantee that you're going to have a good engine still, because it could actually crack the head, which is very, very painful. So you see fluid leaking on this belt. You can see this belt is dry as well, and this is a good indication. This is a good example. Look at this belt. Okay, look at the groove pattern here. I know that we got chat box in a way, but if you see, this is the back of the belt and you can see a groove here. Do you see this groove here? That's definitely an indication of a misalignment or something. Actually, this is an indication of something rubbing against the belt. So this is, you want to trace this down. Replacing this belt is not just going to be ideal, and then thinking you're going to be okay. You're going to have to fix this coolant. And definitely, so if you look at this pulley, when I talked about misalignment, you see how this pulley has the ends here? This is the end of the pulley. So if you have another pulley that's on the engine that's actually riding on top of that, you're going to see that it's actually shiny where the paint was taken off. That's an indication of a misalignment. That's what I wanted to explain to you earlier. I had a pulley. I thought I had a pulley that was, let me see if I can find that image that had that pulley that was shown to be wore. Okay, here's an image here. All right, here I found this image. Okay, so this is an image of a pulley here, and you can see this where all the grooves are. This pulley looks normal, but what you're going to be looking for, you want to examine all your pulleys, and you see how it's shiny. That means that's where the belt is riding. You don't want it shiny on these edges of these pulleys on any area of your or any pulley that's on the assembly. You don't want any edges riding. You don't want the belt riding on these edges. That's going to cause it to wear, and definitely it's basically a misalignment. That's looking at, if you just replace the tensioner and belt, it may fix it just temporarily. But over time, it's still going to give some problems. This is an example of a good pulley. So you can see that it's everything shiny, like I mentioned. In case you guys are just joining us, and the edges are not, you can tell there's nothing riding on the edges. That's a good sign of a pulley there. So we inspected the belts. We're inspecting the pulleys. We looked at, make sure we don't have any fluids leaking on the belts, anything rubbing on the back of the belts. We were checking the struts and the conditions of the tensioners to ensure everything's good there. Recommendation is every year, but as I mentioned, if you're in dusty areas, check out all that dirt that can build up and on the back of these belts, on the inside of these belts, and definitely just wear them out over time. So inspecting pulleys, we talked about how all these belts are being ran and they're not really accessible. So definitely getting these replaced. Online manuals are going to request that you replace these every year, as I mentioned, but I wouldn't follow that. But I appreciate everybody that's joining us. I'm going to take a break here to give you guys just if you need any service, any service or anything for your after treatment systems or your truck, or you're coming through the DFW area, we have a friendly staff up front and qualified technicians waiting in the back for you guys, trying to get you up and going. So if you want to schedule an appointment, you can call us at 972-225-3017. I've also seen some comments of people are interested in actually joining our team. So we are hiring. Check out our website. You can hit us up at info@tatexpress.com if you want to apply. We are looking for entry levels. We're always looking for people that are motivated with experience to join our team. So definitely look out. I want to take a second to follow up with everybody's chat here. I appreciate everybody that's joined us. That's kind of why I mentioned about the hiring. We are still looking for technicians, and so if you would like to apply, you can apply info@tatexpress.com or check us out online on our careers page. So I got a guy. I've seen this comment. on the channel. I apologize we don't get back to everybody, but we got a comment here that says, "Hey, my rear differential breather is shooting out oil. Very little, but happens often. I place a new style breather. Usually, how much are you filling it up? It may be overfilled. Are you running the correct oil? You can check online for the online manuals for your particular differential, and that's going to give you your lubrication, all your lubricant specifications for that particular setup. There's a lot of different differentials out there. Make sure that breather is not clogged all the way, to the actual where it's actually breathing off of the differential. If it's clogged up, it's restricted. It can definitely cause it to come out, and make sure that you're not overfilling and running the right oil. The oil might be getting too hot. Usually when I see oil coming out of a breather on a differential, that's going to be an indication that either the differential is getting hot, or there's a restriction in the actual ventilation. What could cause oil temperature to spike, but water temperature doesn't? How high is it going? Oil temperature will run a little bit higher. They do try to do oil coolers. Most engines have oil coolers to try to cool the oil off a little bit. Your oil is going to run hotter, especially whenever you're during the summertime. So, back to those cooling hoses, guys. This summer heat is creating pressure all on your truck. It's putting more pressure on the truck, and it's better. It's better just to kind of check over your truck. You can check every stop. I have videos on how to inspect your truck, and looking over your truck. I know you guys are working pretty hard, but looking over your truck doesn't take too long. You can open up the hood, check out the items that we're talking about on your belts. And I'm hoping we can save a belt, man. I'm hoping we can save a breakdown. I don't want you guys breaking down on the side of the road because, as I mentioned, water pumps are what run that are belt driven. So if you overheat these trucks, man, it can cause some big damage, guys. A big damage. So you can let me go back to this photo here. You can see this cooling hose. When I'm talking about cooling hoses, look at this. Definitely, if you're using these type of clamps, make sure they have the solid band on the inside, because if you have rigids like this and you're running a clamp with that doesn't have a solid band in the center, then it's going to eat the hose up as well. And you can see that this is already eaten up in the hose. This is all material. This is all hose material from the clamp, and that's where it's leaking at too. And then look what it does. It leaks on your belt and causes more problems. It's probably squealing and not letting people sleep in the yard when you guys park. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy where you're just squealing all night. If you I know budgeting maintenance is definitely key. If you guys want to try to change these belts on your own, you can just. I probably can make a video on that. Sometimes it's a little tricky in there, and I don't want you guys to, try to do it on the side of the road or anything. Sometimes it's not that easy, but I appreciate everybody that's joining us. Yeah, Edward, I'm trying to get some more content out. We're scheduled to shoot this weekend on some new stuff. If you guys got some ideas on what you guys would like to see, let me know. I would definitely be interested and just being able to share anything. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this live, my main goal is that you at least take something away from this. So I want to share some more images here on the tensioners. This is another tensioner. You can see how now this is a tensioner that doesn't have any of course it's just of course a tensioner, but you can see how this wear, you can see the wear, it just kind of looks like brake dust around it. This is an indication that you definitely have and you can just look at the condition of this pulley or this tensioner. You can see it's got probably over 500,000 miles on it. Definitely don't wait for this tensioner to go out on you and tear up your engine, because it's gonna get your truck hot, especially with these Volvos. If you crack a head on a Volvo or any truck, it gets really pricey. Nothing's cheap right now. Okay, so I appreciate everybody that's joined us. Edward's watching from Lubbock, Texas. Guys, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you're not subscribed. If you have buddies that are in the trucking industry and you think this information could be useful to them, make sure to share my content to them. We're just sharing information so you guys everyone's more aware on working on these diesel engines. Now, as we specialize in Class 8 engines, but most diesel engines, and you can use a lot of this information across a lot of engines. So when we're talking about belts, the belts are on every engine. Okay, so they're on smaller engines, diesel engines, but with a diesel engine, you're rotating. They're rotating, they're idling, they're rotating a lot. They're nothing like a car. Okay, when you look at the owner's manual and you look at the preventive maintenance and when to replace this belt, they're saying in severe cases 100,000 miles. A car is not going to put 100,000 miles. Okay, a car is not going to put 100,000 miles. So the engines are constantly running, constantly working. Diesel engines are constantly moving. You guys are what's keeping America moving. Whatever's coming in, whatever's coming out, it needs to be moved on trucks. So these engines are workhorses. These are the modern day workhorses. So keeping up with these belts is why it's so crucial, especially during the winter time. I'm telling you, this heat puts so much work on these trucks. It just makes everything more more. It just makes everything at a higher temperature. Of course, your oils are less, the viscosity is lower. The engine's running hotter. Everything is just working harder in the heat. I would like to recap on the live that we had just yesterday, and I had somebody mention about warming up their truck, and I was thinking about this earlier, and he asked, hey, how long should I wait to warm my truck up? Now, I answered him, but I want to be clarified. I would warm the truck up, especially if you're loaded and you're about to put a load on the engine. Warm up to operating temperature or close to operating temperature in colder times, because in colder times, I understand you're not going to hit your temperature at idle, but right now we're in summer. Definitely, you're going to hit your temperature. So that if you have a load on that engine, these engines do not run efficient when they're running too cold. They're not like gasoline engines where they're forcing them to be colder. Diesel engines need to be warm to be able to burn all that fuel. They don't have an igniter like a spark plug. So definitely wait for a truck to be warmed up all the way. Got a question here. What's the best way to get into diesel mechanics? I'm 16 and I want to get into diesel. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. Good question. Right now technicians are needed all over the place. So it wouldn't be bad to start somewhere that probably just does PMs, something that has a good training to get you started, because it's jumping in right away. If you have good mechanic skills, before I got into diesel, I tore down everything from gasoline engines to dirt bike engines, four-wheeler engines. I was just in it all. But then I moved over to diesel. Engines are engines, they pretty much all run the same. Diesels are, of course, we specify now in more class 8, and there's so many different platforms out there. So we just concentrate most of our material on the class 8s and retraining and training on everything. We do work on smaller diesel engines for like service trucks and whatnot. I have an image of a job that we did on that one, and those are the same way. No belt is really easy to replace. Even on cars, I don't even recall the last engine that was made where the belt was just that easy to replace, where you just need one ratchet and that's it. Now you need kind of you need extensions. You got to kind of work your way through it. They do sell specialty tools. Volvo sells specialty tools. But if you're gonna be doing Volvos, I would definitely look into something that's gonna be that you're gonna be specialty in, because you're gonna definitely save some time. We're gonna be doing some more training and releasing some training. So just stay tuned. If you're wherever you're from, referring back to the comment about the youngster that wants to get into diesel. That's really nice that you want to get into it, man. Don't stop. Just look into your local places where that could open a door for you, that might need a hand. Some tires, you can start with some tires and try to work your way up to some oil changes, and then just read and research your information, and definitely look out. You definitely can. You're very young, man. So there's no really excuses. You're really young. I appreciate. I got a comment here saying. In chat says really enjoy the lives. I appreciate that, man. Let me know if evenings are better. Analytics show that you guys are more settled in the evening. So let me know if these lives in the evening. I can see that we have more people that has joined us today than the morning live. So I do try to help you guys out and trying to cover as any information you got here. Got another comment here. It says I got an alignment done after putting a Hancock steering tire. Oh man, I don't really like that brand. And my truck steering wheel is to the left a bit. I don't really like that brand for steers. He got a question about, he said he just got an alignment done and he put a Hancock, which I believe is a Chinese tire. I may be wrong, but it doesn't sound like a Bridgestone or, one of the Yokohamas are really good brands, Bridgestones, especially when it comes to the steers, because you don't want to put anything on the steer that's really, really cheaply made. I don't want to say anything against a Chinese tire, but that's just kind of like a known. It's kind of awkward because probably all of them are made there, but if you don't have a high quality tire, Bridgestone, anything like that, it probably hasn't been run through test. So you could have an add around tire if you're pulling to the left or right. And your alignment is good and it's not the tire, you might have a drum dragging. I talked about that earlier in my live yesterday about how you can have a brake drag. We've seen those as well. Also, when you're doing alignments, guys, don't just say, hey, if you just get your front tires replaced, don't request just a front wheel alignment, because you have two more axles behind that axle. So if you just align your front axle and you have two other axles that are misaligned, okay, so the back of that truck is being pushed in a direction and your front of your truck is trying to stay. So I would go ahead and align all three axles and make sure everything's good and tight, because you can have some U-bolt stretch over time, especially with trucks that have high mileage and you guys are running all these heavy containers and not level grounds going off road. That's a lot. That can move a lot and cause you to have some problems. But back to your comment, if your truck wasn't pulling to that side before that tire was replaced, then it could be that tire. You might want to get it balanced. If you've already bought it and you're already in it, you don't want to lose it. You might have to flip it. Oh, sorry about that. Let me get back on here. All right, there you go. Sorry about that, guys. Got a delay there on the timer on the camera. So definitely, if you might be able to do some, swapping the tire, inside, from one side and flopping it inside to kind of see if it kind of changes and wears it on that side. But I definitely wouldn't go with a Chinese tire on the front. But thank you for sharing that comment, and hopefully I was able to answer your question there. So guys, if you guys and gals, I know there's some gal drivers out there too. If you got any more questions on your belts or something that I might not have covered, we talked about squealing belts. You don't want to be that person that's squealing the belt. We talked about checking your grooves, all that. So I'd like to cover more of these comments. I appreciate everybody's comments about the lives. I appreciate you guys joining us. Today looks like we got more people on today, so it looks like these evening lives are doing a little bit, are actually a little bit better. So I'm glad you guys have joined us. Let me know where you're watching from. If you guys are passing through the DFW area, if you need and you want some service, you can definitely hit us up. 972-225-3017. We're located in Dallas, Texas. We have a friendly staff. You can look at our reviews. You can research us. We have some solid technicians. We follow OEM repair. If anyone's coming in with deletes or anything, unfortunately, we don't work on eliminated trucks or anything that has deletes or anything like that, just because, I mean, we're not against you guys. We're just technicians, and we don't want to get into a pickle where we have low power, and the issue was we're troubleshooting, and we have issues with a delete. And most of the times those are tough to get, so are tough to kind of iron out. So that's why we don't accept those type of trucks, guys. So, but I appreciate everybody that's joined us. If you have any other items that you'd like to cover, Brian says, I got some tiny leaks coming from a few of my fuel injector lines on the DD15. Is that something that I can put off? Is it oil leaks? If it's light oil, Brian says he's got some tiny leaks coming from the fuel injector lines on the DD15. If it's oil, you'll be all right. If it's fuel, you probably need to get it replaced. I mean, I would definitely. DD15s are newer platforms, are running at real high fuel pressure. These are super high fuel pressure. So if any kind of leaks might not be that big of a deal at idle, but when you're under a load and that engine is putting out a lot of pressure on that injection system, you can definitely lose power there. But if it's oil, light oil, yeah, you might be all right for a little bit until you can get those grommets replaced. That's a pretty common. It says oil leaking from the crankcase breather as well. Okay, if you got oil coming from the crankcase breather, how many miles are on the truck? Okay, if you have over 500,000 miles and you haven't replaced that crankcase breather, that would probably be the first thing that I do. Check to see if you don't have high compression, high crankcase pressure, because what you can do is definitely put some money on this truck, and if you have a worn out engine, you're just going to have the same problem. So check. You can open up the cap. If the truck is super high mileage, then I would definitely look into look into maybe doing a I just posted a photo on that, but a compression test. Now most newer, well, DD15 you can do a compression test and make sure everything's good on that truck, because I don't want to get too deep into that, but there's could be a lot of things, Brian, and I don't want you just to replace all these parts and you have high crankcase pressure, and all these new parts that you're going to be replacing are just going to end up doing the same thing. They're just going to end up leaking. So I appreciate everybody that's joined us. Good question. Good information. I appreciate that. I have a Cummins ISX 15 and the motor sounds loud and the front gears are loose and maybe valves and head are worn. I have over 1 million miles on my head and the bottom half is redone last year. Okay, so 1 million miles. If you're hearing gear train noise, I mean, don't keep pushing the truck. It's gonna wear, and if you hear that gear train noise, yes, you could have some loose gear train. Those gear trains need to be adjusted. At least when you do, I would suggest it when you do your 500,000 overhead adjustment. So that's good that you did the bottom end, which is replacing your rod bearings and your main bearings. But on those Cummins or anything that has a gear train, you definitely don't want to overlook the gear train. The end play, if the end play is too high, then you're gonna have all that noise. Those gears are gonna wear. The engine's gonna run really crappy. If it's over 1 million miles, then you're probably preparing for a rebuild or just a whole engine swap. So, but I don't know how long you've had the truck. Just going by from what you're telling me, loud noises like that, you want an engine running smooth, kind of like it kind of as closest to a sewing machine as possible. You want everything just smooth. You don't want to hear a real kind of rattling noise or anything that just sounds really high pitch. Or if you hear that and you know it, if you keep pushing it, it's gonna just cause more wear and it's gonna end up causing more money to do the whole rebuild if you decide to do an overhaul on that. Okay, the oil will get hot enough to shut down the truck only at inclines. Okay, that's getting pretty hot. If that was a question, an additional comment from a comment that I saw earlier about oil temperature spiking. If your oil is spiking like that and it's enough to shut your truck down, definitely don't keep pushing it, because if you have issues with your engine not being able to cool the oil, or if it's overheating, it sounds like it's overheating. When's the last time you had an oil change? So that's probably where I would begin. If you had if you had an oil change recently, there shouldn't be no reason why your truck's overheating like that. How many miles are on it? If you have any oil leaks, how's your coolant look? Is your coolant getting hot as well? But definitely get that looked at. If you're going on inclines, that's whenever the truck's going through the most load. Got a comment here that says, I put Lucas in the oil, and when a big hill temp went up to like 290. Guys, that's kind of why I don't like putting Lucas. I don't like putting Lucas or additives in oil, because you don't know. There's enough additives. If you're using quality oil, if you're using quality oil, you don't have to put Lucas. You can, and you're doing good oil changes. You're not going super extended oil changes without an oil analysis. Then you don't really need any Lucas or any oil additives. Definitely want to get that. I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't use that anymore. If I was Lucas back in the day on these older trucks, but not on these newer trucks. Here's another image. Check this one out. This one's got this is the Volvo leaking oil. Take a look at that image. Getting a water break in. .318 Louisiana asked me if we're in Lancaster. We're right on the edge of Lancaster and Dallas, so like we can throw a rock into Lancaster from where we're at. So we're pretty close to Lancaster. Dallas, we're off of Interstate 20, off of Bonneview Road. Check us out if you need service. 972-225-3017. You can schedule online. I apologize ahead of time if you guys call and you have questions over the phone. We don't have technicians available to troubleshoot over the phone. We definitely have to look at it, because look at this truck here. Okay, we talked about the belts earlier, and this is an indication of course, leaking oil all on your hoses. The hose clamps are good. They look solid. Those are the hose clamps I was talking to you about earlier. But check out that hose, and this is what oil, coolant, oil would just make these hoses get all like this soft, and will definitely have a failure over time. So take a look at your truck, guys. Get out, open your hood. Marco asked if we work on 3406E. Yes, sir. We have the software to troubleshoot CAT as well. We have all manuals to work on Caterpillar as well. We definitely work on Caterpillars. So if you need service, give us a call, 972-225-3017. We have all the tools, specialty tools, and we have the resources to get the parts. So yes, we work on Caterpillar engines. Thank you for asking. So yeah, I wouldn't put any additives in your coolant or oil, guys. It's just if you're running good oil, if you check out my video about oil and how to choose the oil or what oil to choose. If you're using CK4, most of you guys are using Rotella, Dello, Delvac, all these name brand oils. If you're using those oils, they have enough additives in them. If you're going extended, run the oil analysis. So I appreciate everybody that has joined us. I want to get back here. Oil high, we talked about that one. Does anyone else use engine oil instead of power steering fluid? I've seen a few people filling their power steering fluid reservoirs with oil. Now you can, I mean, especially with the older ones, but with these newer ones, these pumps, the power steering pumps are getting a little bit more delicate. So you don't want this happening. You don't want this happening over here on your power steering pump hoses and everything and making a mess. Once that happens, it just gets really messy. But what I would suggest, if you look at your power steering pumps, look at your gearbox, check it out. You can look it up, and most gearboxes can run off a diesel engine oil. But if you can get the right oil that it's calling for, that's what I would prefer, because temperatures, everything like that. So definitely, if you're in a bind, yeah. But if you're, doing that as a flush and refill, put the time into going ahead and getting the right steering fluid, power steering fluid. How often do you counterbore cutting when you do a rebuild at your shop? Now, we can do counterbores on most engines, but if it gets to a point where they're pretty wore out like that, then we would probably, most of the time, we just send the block out or replace the block. Or do a 3/4 build, which is just a whole engine coming from the manufacturer at 3/4 built. You know what I mean? Which comes with all the piston rods, center, everything like that. We would just reuse all the externals. Of course, I would replace a head. But if it, most like the Series 60s, those that's real common to cut and everything like that. It's they do them probably like 2 times. But even with Caterpillars, you can cut them as well. But these newer engines, they're not as commonly cut, especially if you want to get the same horsepower coming out of them or the same longevity. You might be able to get a cut and get something put together and turned on, but how long is it going to last? How to prime a ISX? I always have difficulty starting after a PM. We use a priming system. I did a video on how to prime a DD15. That's a good idea to do a video on the ISX. It's just the same thing. We just hook up. ISX do have lift pumps, so some of them will have a lift pump where you can hear it bzzz. So if you do oil change and you change your fuel filters, you can hear that that buzz on that pump, and that's when it stops buzzing. That's pretty much when it's prime. Chris, I appreciate that super chat. I keep forgetting to mention super chat. If you guys would like to hit the super chat, your comment will be highlighted. Chris Sosa doesn't have a question. He just says thank you. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. So yeah, definitely will send out an engine if it needs to be. Oh, I'm sorry, we're on the priming the ISX. We'll definitely can use the lift pump and get it primed that way, or you can use an external priming system like we use. Which is, we used to use the hand pump, which just puts air on top of the fuel, but we've noticed that you can actually, if you're not cautious, you can shoot air into the fuel system and definitely just cause more damage. So I got a comment here on the live. It says the evening lives are better for me. Mornings are everybody's very busy in the mornings. I get it. We're pretty busy in the morning as well, getting everybody started. So yeah, I like the evening lives too. A lot more people came on today, so I appreciate everybody that's joined us. I'm going to continue covering symptoms, maintenance, everything like that. So guys, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you have any friends or anybody that are in the trucking industry and you want to share my content over to them. My goal is that you guys can at least take something away from the show. So if you're able to take something away, if I save a squealing belt, if I save somebody able to sleep at night from their neighbors squealing that belt all night because now they want to fix it, that's definitely worthwhile. Brightness says, thanks, will do. I have a very little knowledge in cars and stuff, but we'll be learning to exactly how to start apprentice and advise. Yeah, that's a comment back from earlier about the guy that wanted to join diesel mechanics. He says he doesn't have too much experience in cars, but very young. You're 16. Even if you're at a later age and you're interested in getting into diesel mechanics, it's never too late. There's always going to be a shortage for diesel mechanics. There's always going to be a shortage for automotive mechanics. There's always going to be a shortage for mechanics, period. There's always going to be a shortage for the blue-collar style working class or working force. A lot of times that went out of, for some reason, it went out of style. Back in the 50s, it was a trend to be the 50 style blue-collar worker. And then now, for some reason, it kind of changed over time, but it looks like it's reversing its role when it comes to like contract workers, electricians, specialty worker or specialty fields like that are becoming more and more valuable. You can see it all over the board. You can right now AC technicians for whether they're commercial or residential. And you're looking at as a diesel technician as well. There is work in all areas, so definitely like that. I didn't get that. I didn't get to comment on your super chat. I appreciate that super chat. And I definitely like to share information, and I like to get some comments from you guys too. Learning from you guys is definitely like, I like looking at all the comments and everybody that joins us. Terminator says, hey Adam, when do you have a Cascadia hood pivot broken? Can you still drive the truck and get home? Thanks. If the pivot is broken and man, try to secure that hood, man. The comment is he's got an issue with a hood broken where it pivots. But if that hood is bolted down, if you can get you you can get some bungees, bungee that sucker down, so you don't want to get no air up under there. So if you can bungee it down, just make sure that hood is secured. Yeah, try to make it home, man. Just make sure that you don't lose that hood, man, because that's a big component. Very expensive hood. Whenever we replace hoods and we order a hood, they just send us the shell. We have to kind of rebuild the whole hood. So there's a lot of components that go on that hood, and it sucks that it broke. We've had that issue. We've seen that before. There's a lot of weight on that hood, man. Those hoods are heavy. I hope you make it home safe. Thank you for sharing. If you can get some not cargo straps, bungees on that thing, kind of secure it as much as you can without bringing too much attention. But if it's safe, go. If it's not safe, if you really feel like it's gonna fall off or air is gonna get up under it, then I wouldn't risk it. It's just not worth it. Maybe you can try a shop that can help you secure it. get it secured. But I know that most shops are gonna want to fix it correctly. Thank you for sharing that. Hopefully, and good luck, man. Hopefully you make it back without losing that hood. Don't lose that hood, man. That thing's pretty high, man. Hoods are very expensive. I got another question. I'm having a problem with the automatic transmissions on a Cascadia 2014. I've already dropped the transmissions twice. Clutch is new. The transmission is having problems straining in gear. Okay. First, I would say it's automated. You know, everybody's gonna freak out. We're gonna freak out on you. Everybody's gonna freak out on you if you call it an automatic, because it's not an automatic transmission. It's automated. So there's a lot of components that go into these these new transmissions for I was gonna say iShift, but that's a DT12, which is manufactured by Detroit. This is where software comes into play. With software, you're gonna be able to see what's going on with with the transmission if you're having operation issues. With those transmissions, make sure you're replacing the filter, which is air filter. You want to make sure you got enough air pressure going to these transmissions that are automated. You want to make sure that there is enough pressure going to them. Some of them have air filters as well. Some have air regulators. Goes back to my video the live that I did yesterday about how important dryers are. Because if you get too much condensation and too much buildup in your air system, it's going to make it to your transmission, and you can have problems like we're having here. Okay, now I'm not specifically saying that it's going to be air restricted related, but that's something that's definitely going to need to be checked out. You want to make sure that everything's operating correctly when it comes to, and with these automated systems, since it's automated, it's all controlled by computers. So having the software, unfortunately, Marco, having someone with the software from the manufacturer is going to be your best bet. So look what happened. You dropped the transmission. You say you dropped it twice already. That's a lot of work, man. Automated transmissions are so much more bulkier than the manual transmission. They're bulkier. They're just not really comfortable to get up under there. Thankfully now our shop, for many years we did it all on the ground, which was very challenging, and now we're able to, thankfully, is lift it up. But if you guys aren't able to do that, I understand. And automated systems are just really tough to drop and just keep dropping them for no reason. There is a lot of different tests that you can run on your transmissions, on these automated transmissions. There's a lot of things that you need to look into. Okay, the controllers, the air modules, as I mentioned, all these different components work together so this transmission can work correctly. And if it's straining in gear, are you sure that it's a transmission problem and not something going on with the engine? Okay, because if your engine's straining, what do you mean by it's straining? It's straining to go in gear. I mean, is it straining to shift gears? See if I can change my face so I don't look so concerned, so I don't concern you guys so much. All right, so yeah, definitely get that checked out. We got about a few more minutes on this show. I appreciate everybody that's joined us. I hope you guys were able to take something away from this show. I call you so many times, Gilbert. I appreciate your support. Is there troubleshooting that you need us on the phone? What is it exactly? Hit us up at info@tatexpress.com. info@tatexpress.com. If you have a question, Gilbert Brown, and you weren't able to get us on the phone, maybe we can help you out over online through an email if you have questions or concerns. Most of the time, if you're calling at the shop, that's a lot of the service writers up front are dealing with customers that are at the shop already. So we work on scheduling you in, because most of our resources, we don't have like excessive resources when it comes to personnel. So most of our resources are focused on everybody that's being served in the shop right now. So it's challenging for us to pull technicians off a job to be able to answer questions on the phone. And we don't want to troubleshoot on the phone either, because if we have any issues they're not corrected, then it's definitely just going to look bad on us for not, and it's going to be a reason for we didn't look at the truck. Mostly we do inspections over a truck, a full inspection over a truck, and we try to get as much repair history. So if you have low repair history if you have low repair history, and let me get a better angle here because I look like I'm just hiding behind my mic. If you don't have a good maintenance history, then it's definitely going to cause you to have some problems. Let me get an angle going. All right, so definitely going to cause some problems. So definitely going to get you some problems here. Let me get going on here, Brian. We got a few more minutes, 5 minutes left. I got alignment today. They didn't recommend alignment in the back, so I skipped it. Why would they? A 3-axle alignment is just a must. If they said you didn't need it, did they put something on there to kind of ensure that your rear axles are aligned? Good comment. He said we talked earlier about alignment, so if you guys want to rewind, that's just a recap on that. Had a guy come in today to pick up Chris's trailer. Well, thanks for joining us. It's 318 Louisiana. Hope we were able to meet or exceed your expectations. Joshua says, thank you. Yes, sir. Thanks for the info. I got a new block and pistons and liners. Just didn't rebuild the head. Might be why it's noisy. So you got a new block on it, pistons and liners, but not the new head. With the head, if you have a clogged valve or anything, a valve's not working correctly, worn valves, that's gonna have it running rough. I would replace a head if you are doing a whole rebuild. I would try to get a new head. I understand that sometimes it's going to be a remanufactured head. An OEM head is going to be preferable because of the amount of work that it goes into rebuilding these trucks and the amount of time and energy and money. So you don't want to have to do it again. So definitely would definitely replace that head. And then if you have so many miles, I think this is on the Cummins. If you have so many miles, you're definitely probably going to have to get that gear train looked at. That's part of the repairs. That's part of the repairs when it comes to rebuilding those engines, is checking out that gear train. Appreciate everybody that's joining us today. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button. Make sure to share the video, get us more likes. Just recently, guys, we hit 5 million views, guys, on YouTube. I appreciate everybody's support. That's crazy. That was like 5 days ago. We hit 5 million views total on the channel. So thanks for everybody's support. We're going to be continuously working to put out new content. We're scheduled to shoot some new videos this weekend, and we're going to try to keep these lives coming at you guys. Yes, sir. You're surely welcome for all this information I'd like to give out to you guys. I hope you guys can take something out of it. Always appreciate content off topic, but 17 Cascadia DD15 Eaton 13 Auto. I run an end dump trailer. Feels like the tires spin from 5th to 6th gear. Doesn't feel like it's fixed the 5th wheel. Doesn't feel like the tranny fixed 5th wheel. If you're spinning at 5th to 8, the tires are spinning. Check your suspension. Make sure check your tire wear. If your tire wear looks uniform, then if you're spinning like that, are you running pretty heavy? If it's an end dump, so does it happen all the time? I know that maybe I could imagine the weight distribution on those trucks. Does that make a difference? If you're spinning the wheels at 5th and 6th, you might have to, depends on the terrain, you might have to activate that second axle. There's a switch on the dash. If so, I would probably do that in those situations where you're spinning like that. That probably just goes to show sometimes those end dumps. I know those end dumps have like massive suspension, like they have super like leaf springs just stacked up. So they got very stiff suspension. So if you are in like a uneven area, maybe you have some wheels that aren't making contact, and that's what you would go ahead and switch on your other axle. So hopefully that helps, Osa. Appreciate that question. But yeah, I've been in that situation before. If it's an auto, I mean, is ABS coming on, or your spin, is it showing it? Is it indicating that it's spinning? That would be another item that I would look for as well, to make sure that it's recognizing that it's spinning. Appreciate everybody that's joining us. Got another guy watching from California, Los Angeles. we're going to wrap up today's show. I'm glad everybody that's joined us. It was a great show today. I hope you guys learned something on checking out these belts and keeping an eye on your belts. And don't wait until these belts are busting on you guys, because it's going to keep you on the side of the road. It can cause more damage, and you can definitely get some issues down on the road. You can lose both belts. You can be in an area where they don't have the belts. So most times we're waiting on belts as well. So do preventive maintenance. You want to prevent a breakdown by doing preventive maintenance. So again, if you guys are in the DFW area and you'd like to get service, you can call us at 972-225-3017. If you have some questions, you can email us at info@tatexpressinc.com. We'll do our best to get back to you. If you have any scheduling, you can do that online as well. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe to our channel, so next time that we go live that you're notified. Everybody be safe out there. Be sure to be courteous, everybody. Be patient. Everybody is in a rush, and everybody's more important than the next. But remember that we've got to be patient out there, guys. You're not in a car. You're in a truck. And also, even when you're working on these trucks, be patient. You don't want to bust your knuckles up. You're just getting hot. It takes a lot of patience to work on these. So appreciate everybody again. Thanks again, everybody that's joined us. Everybody that's done the super chat. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Brian, thank you for the super chat. And thanks for everybody that joined us. I'll see you guys next time. Until